Content over everything. Yeah, man, rolling still. Obviously, man, got the news today, earlier on, that Robert Mugabe dropped out, you get me?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wanted to get the people's view on Robert Mugabe dropping out, you get me? His legacy and everything as well, you get me?
I'd just like to say rest in eternal peace. Elder Robert Mugabe, one of our great legends, you know. You know, he did a lot for Africa. A lot of people don't know the true story of Robert Mugabe. They haven't done any research. They just listen. Yeah, they just listen to what the media says and propagates. You understand? Like Robert Mugabe was key in the revolution of Zimbabwe. Then it was called, they tried to name it Rhodesia. Yeah. A guy called Cecil Rose. Yeah, who was colonizing and brutalizing the people in that area. Yeah. They locked him up for 10 years. You understand what I'm saying? They locked him up for 10 years because of his liberation stance and the way that he was liberating the people. While they tortured him, yeah, even tried to castrate him, he managed to break out of prison, yeah, and start a guerrilla campaign against the Cecil Rhodesia government. You understand what I'm saying? And then after that, they put the pressure on the colonial government so much that they had to call something called the Lancaster House Agreement. The Lancaster House Agreement stipulated, because what Europeans tend to do is when they're losing a war, yeah. When they're losing a war, they tend to hold things like the Lancaster House Agreement, where they can come and use diplomacy to get what they want. So what they said is that after a certain period of time, that the land will be returned to the indigenous people of the land. Yeah. So under the Tony Blair government, years later, they reneged on their agreement that they would return the land to the indigenous people of the land. You understand what I'm saying? So with this, Robert Mugabe even tried to be compassionate a little bit, because he said that what you should do is compensate the farmers, the white farmers who've stolen the land from the indigenous people, compensate them for their loss of earnings or whatever. And that was also stipulated in the agreement. Tony Blair refused to honor that agreement, yeah, that was laid down at Lancaster House. And that's what caused Robert Mugabe now and the ZANU-PF revolutionaries to make the move to take away the land. And even in that, he even tried to even go as far as to say that any reasonable Europeans, yeah, who would slowly give back the land could stay there for a period of time, yeah, until the indigenous people, you know, like a peaceful transfer. They even refused to do that. So as soon as he started taking back over the land, that's when you hear, oh, Robert Mugabe's a tyrant. You understand? Okay.
What about the massive penis?
Okay. All right. But what it was, as I said at the beginning, if you came at the start of the, yeah, if you came at the start, yeah, all respect, 'cause I respect you, you're my elder, and you're entitled to your opinion same way. But what I'm saying is at the start, what I said is that he was a revolutionary. In his younger days, he was a revolutionary. There was a guy called Cecil Rose, yeah, who called Zimbabwe Rhodesia and was brutalizing the people, had them under serious oppression. Robert Mugabe was one of the revolutionaries, yeah, that said this is wrong, yeah. So in that now, they locked him up for 10 years. His son passed away while he was in prison. They tortured him while he was in prison. They tortured him while he was in prison. They tried to castrate him even, yeah, and they wouldn't even allow him. His son passed away, yeah, while he was in, because he had 10 years. His son passed away, yeah, and they wouldn't even let him out to see his son. You understand? He managed to break out of prison. He managed to break out. Him and some other ZANU-PF revolutionaries broke out of prison.
What about the Matabele massacre?
Listen,
yes?
Listen.
I've been outside the Zimbabwe house for 10 years protesting against Mugabe.
Okay.
He is a tyrant. He was a dictator. Okay. He oppressed his people.
Okay.
Right.
You're entitled to your beliefs and your
Fine.
opinion. I'm not going to argue.
Well,
If there's-
I've been with the ANC. My husband was head of security for the ANC.
Okay.
Mandla Langa. Okay. So he was a tyrant and a dictator.
Okay.
He made the people poor. Thank you.
Yes. So, as I said before, yeah, he made a great contribution to African liberation. You understand what I'm saying? He made a great contribution. He should always, his legacy should always be remembered for somebody that rose up against the colonial powers. You understand? And even if in that we want to say tyrant and all that, this country, exactly, tyrant to who? Because this country can't say anything about being a tyrant. Look how many lands they've colonized. Look how many people they've oppressed around the world and how much destruction they've caused around the world. So
what would you say is responsible for the state of Mugabe in terms of, I heard an argument a lot that he took the power from the white farmers, but his own people weren't ready to efficiently run the farms.
Do you know what it is as well? Is that we must understand certain things, yeah? Is that other people that can tell you this, like even people that study economists and people like this. If you start putting trade restrictions on
Oh, you mean the sanctions and them?
yeah, sanctions and stuff like that, this destabilizes the economy. Now, there's other people like Morgan Shangarai and people like this that would disagree with his nationalist stance. Because what Mugabe was saying is return the natural resources of the land to the indigenous people. Now, you see the puppet governments that they're used to. Like even if you look in Congo, you have Patrice Lumumba that was set up by Mobutu, who handed him over to the Belgians. You have people like this in the African leadership that will sell you back.
Mobutu and them, and they was working for the Western powers them time there, and like.
Exactly, and Patrice Lumumba was a revolutionary. He wanted to have the Africans in control of their own natural resources, basically. So anybody who thinks like that is a threat to the Western government because they always want their hands in Africa. Because think about it, what natural resources does this place produce? It doesn't produce any natural resources. Africa is the breadbasket of the world. So going back to my statement is that when you start putting sanctions on the people, yeah, and trade embargoes, they can't trade freely and stuff like that, you know, and a lot of other things that are going on behind the scenes, yeah. Let's just say like wickedness in high and low places, CIA, things, and MI5, things like that to destabilize them. Because you know what? They will call it on Question Time around the period of time. There was even some people that were calling for Britain to go into Zimbabwe, like they went into certain other places. You understand what I'm saying? But that could not happen. Yeah, exactly, because he's a tyrant, because he's oppressing his people. Simply because we don't understand the politics. The nature of politics is power. If somebody comes with a different agenda and says, look, we shouldn't take back the land, yeah? We should be more diplomatic. Even though the Lancaster House Agreement was up, it stated that the people needed back the land. You understand? That was an agreement. So the Western government, Tony Blair and all them, can break the agreement and then it don't mean nothing. You understand what I'm saying? It definitely does mean something. You understand? They're the ones that foul played. If they compensated all their imperialist white farmers, yeah, if they compensated them and upheld the agreement, then there wouldn't have been no problem, basically. You understand? They caused the problem. So you can't. I'm saying the British. Wait 1 second. The British government, yeah, they're the ones that called the Lancaster House Agreement. They said that after a certain period of time, the land will go back to the indigenous people. So when the time was up, all of the ZANU-PF revolutionaries were like, "This agreement's up now." When they talked to Tony Blair's government, yeah, they said, "All right, the time's up. Compensate all of the farmers that are going to lose their land, yeah? All the farmers that are going to lose their land, compensate them, yeah? And have a peaceful transition." Tony Blair refused. He said that they have a right.
Brother,
they have a right.
Can I just say, yeah, that me personally, Like I see it for what it is. Yeah. Because we come from this hooliganist like kind of street life. You understand a robber when you see one.
Yeah.
A robber is a robber. He's come to rob you, innit? And that's the British way. They just come in, they're robbers.
Yeah.
So they come to rob, innit? And what they do, so it's a tactic that they use, and they've used on many civilizations, yeah?
Okay.
They'll starve the people, like you said, they'll put the trade in, but the sanctions, they'll starve them. So then, for instance, say me and you's living in a country, and I'm the leader, and I'm resisting them, yeah? I'm Mugabe, I'm resisting them. I'm any leader, I'm resisting them, yeah? And you're saying, brother, we're starving because of you. Give in to them. Make them give us food, make them give us back our provisions. So basically, you end up fighting me, and we're both in the same place. You end up going to a war with my tribe. We both end up warring each other because you're starving, but I'm standing up for the greater. I'm resisting what's happening, but we're gonna have to suffer. We're gonna have to starve. We're gonna have to suffer, innit? But you're like, brother, we're starving. So then we end up warring. And then you end up killing me, and then you end up being their puppet. And then basically you obey them. And then they say, here, good boy, here's some food, you can eat now.
And this, to comment on that point, I fully agree with my brother. And this is what I'm saying is that, no disrespect to anyone, but Morgan Shangarai, who was an opponent, if he was allowed to do what he was, what they wanted him to do, he would have been a puppet. He would have said, no, you can't do this to the farmers, the Caucasian farmers, the oppressors. You can't do that. So they want somebody who they can control. They couldn't control Robert Mugabe. Yeah, they couldn't control. They
turned them against each other. This is what they do with all civilizations. They turn the people against each other. And see, I might not know the ins and outs and the intricacies and who is who in it, but you see the tactics of war that these people use, it don't change. So basically that's what they do in every civilization. They'll starve the country, they'll put sanctions, and then another set of people is saying, yo brother, I'm starving because of you, brother. And then they come to lick you down. So then basically there's a civil war, but the one who's behind the civil war is the one who starved the country, and then they will fund you, they'll give you arms to fight me, and then you beat me, and then you become the one who's leading the country, and then paying homage to these people and giving them control. And that's how you got in Africa. You got these leaders with millionaires and billionaires, but it's only them who's millionaires and billionaires. All countries starving.
Check it now as well. Some other history as well. Going back to the Congo. Even though we're talking, I'm just trying to give you an example now. Cisse Mobutu, who handed in Patrice Lumumba to the Belgians, because of his stance, because of him wanting Africans to be in control of Africa, Now you have something called the Rumble in the Jungle, the boxing match, You got it, the Rumble in the Jungle. That was, I'm not saying it wasn't a great event or whatever, but stuff like that distracted the people, from what was really going on. You understand what I'm saying? A coup just took place before that. You understand what I'm saying? So that was like a little distraction as to what was going on. Everybody that tries to liberate Africa, simply saying, let's control our own resources, let's benefit from our own land. Anybody who simply says that is a threat to them. Because Africa's the breadbasket, and this service sector economy, this economy is all about end product. You understand what I'm saying? All of the resources that make the products come from different places, especially Africa. So they're dependent on Africa. That's why they have to have that stranglehold on Africa.
Can I also add as well, it's not just Africa. They want world domination. So it's not just Africa's resources that they're stealing. It's everywhere in the world.
It's true.
They've done it to Colombia. They've done it everywhere.
We know this.
They want world domination.
We know this.
They've done it to India. Look what they've done to the Indians and the Pakistanis. Look what they've done to the Chinese.
We know this.
They've done it to every civilization. It's not just Africa. It's everyone that they've done it to.
Listen, this is me personally. I'm concerned. I'm not saying that
you're concerned with Africa. I'm saying that, bruv, it's not just a discrimination against black people or Africa. bruv, they're robbers. They want what you got. They don't care who you are. They want your stuff. They want what you got in it.
Let's get back to the subject.
But your thing's Africa and black people.
That's my thing.
So I leave you, that's your thing.
Yeah.
But I'm saying is,
and the liberation of what? Africa.
but I'm saying that they want to rob everyone.
Yeah, I'm not denying that.
Alright, cool.
You understand?
There's a large picture. They want world domination.
Exactly.
It ain't just about black
And,
people
and
in
when
Africa.
you say they, just as you said, yeah,
Europeans.
it is not just Europeans.
Alright, do you want me to say what
not
my
just
my
Europeans.
truth, my belief?
Not just Europeans,
Alright, do you know what it is? I don't even think it's Europeans. I think it's these Zionists. That's who I think it is. The ones who dress up in the cloak of Judaism, but they're European Jews. It's them. That's my opinion. That's my
I don't
opinion.
want to go too far off the subject.
Yeah.
Let me
But
say
that's
what I'm saying.
who is
Robert
behind it.
Mugabe.
Yeah, to me, Robert Mugabe to me is a revolutionary, yeah, and should be respected. I would even say put the word honorable before Robert Mugabe, the honorable Robert Mugabe, yeah, and that's my view personally. Yeah, he did some great works, and we give thanks for Robert Mugabe, and may his legacy continue forever. And as the tribal, because as we say, we call each other tribal brothers. You understand? But I'm concerned with the liberation of African people. Yeah, I'm concerned with the experience, because we can talk about everybody else. Everybody else has received some sort of restitution.
No, they haven't. Not everyone. The whole world is still in economic slavery. It's not like the whole world. The whole world is in economic
What I'm
slavery.
saying to you, yeah, is that
Nobody has gone the Amangamizi or the transatlantic slave trade, or even going towards neo-colonialism and colonialism. Let me tell you this: nobody suffered more than the African. You understand? No one suffered more than black people. You understand what I'm saying? No one suffered more. So that's who I'm concerned with. You understand? It's not a racist statement. I'm just saying.
No. I agree with you.
Do you know? I always
That's
say
the worst atrocity was what was done to
is that-
Africans.
Say that again.
The worst atrocities
Yeah.
was what was done to Africans.
Okay.
But I will
Okay,
say
okay,
the
go
whole world's gone through atrocities.
All right, we're not denying that. But I'm
What these
concerned with
people
my-
have done.
Yeah,
It's not
I'm
just
concerned-
it's not-
I'm
no,
concerned
but brother,
myself.
but you know the issue is
Yeah,
what
go on.
I find. If we've been victimized by the same bully, why is it you're gonna separate yourself and say, well, this is a black problem or this is the Chinese
but
problem?
listen, we're
Brother,
not dealing with victimization.
I'm saying,
the
brother-
time they're done, you know.
No, I know, but
we're dealing
I'm
with self-reliance. No, listen, let me speak.
But you're not
We're
the
dealing
only
with-
victim.
No, but listen, hear what I'm saying.
What I'm
we're
saying
not
is
dealing
you-
with victimized. Listen, my brother.
go
I pray
on,
thee, yeah.
go on.
We're not dealing with victimization. We're dealing with self-reliance. We're dealing with self-development. Yeah, we're trying to this is the whole legacy of Robert Mugabe. Yeah, he was trying to put power back in the hands of oppressed people. You understand? He was a champion. He started off as a revolutionary, and he went all the way through. You understand what I'm saying? One of the longest reigning leaders in Africa, and we give him his respect. You understand? So I'm not denying anything you say, my brother. And this is what I always say. I always say this, yeah? Believe what you want. Just don't try to push your beliefs on others.
100%.
You understand?
Bro,
Yeah. So I'm just
totally agree
I'm
with
just giving you my perspective.
I totally agree.
I'm just giving you my perspective.
Brother, I agree with you 100%. But I'm just saying that, brother, the whole world's been victimized by the same bully.
And who is that bully? Tell me.
I told you who the bully is already. It's the certain people who's got control of everything, and the European,
Yeah.
they're the fake Jews basically. The fake Jews.
Okay, go on.
They're not real Jews. The ones who claim to Zionism, world domination, and they don't care about your race. They don't care about what country you're from. They want world domination.
Can I just say something?
They want to control everything.
Well, you got my
Can I
view
just say
anyway,
something as
yeah.
well?
So it's not
Listen,
just.
listen.
So it's not
Can I
just.
say something as
It's
well?
not just a.
Yeah.
God,
I hear what you were saying, but I feel that we should learn to try and live together in peace and harmony. It's not always going to be harmonious. It's not always going to be in peace, but we can make a difference in terms of
100%.
the human race. We can learn to look at each other's cultures, respect, and get to know each other's cultures. Sometimes the reason why there's all this racism and fighting amongst us because we don't understand or know of other countries or try to even understand the food, the culture, how they behave, different things. We're all part of the human race. All the 5 continents are part of the human race. And if we don't learn to live down here, we're not going to be able to live together in heaven. because I believe personally that Jesus is coming soon. When we look around the world, the scriptures are being fulfilled right in front of our very eyes.
I'm Muslim, I believe
And
that.
God said that for the very elect's sake, he will cut it short. So we need to have a common denominator where we learn to live together. It's not easy. It's not easy, and families can't always live together. They're always fighting and striving, lots of problems. But we as human beings have to learn. We are developing, evolving. We have to learn to live together. Like what Martin Luther King said, it's not about the colour of your skin, no.
The content of your character.
It's about the content of your character, content of your heart, and trying. If your character's not bad, ask God to help improve. Say, Lord Jesus Christ, come into my life and help me to be a better person. Forgive me of my sins.
Let me ask you a question. Cool. We was discussing, obviously, earlier today, Robert Mugabe passed away. Robert Mugabe passed away earlier today, so we wanted to get people's opinions on the man himself and him passing. So I don't know if you've got anything to speak about in relation to that.
Well, I did listen to it a bit on the news, and they were saying that when he first started, because he was in power from 1987 to 2017, a good 30 years, and that when he came into power, he was very much for like the civil rights movement, for humanitarian, for all the injustice that was done in South Africa, and he was trying to bring about a change. I cannot say anything about his character because I never knew him, so I'm not there to judge. I can only say what I've seen on television, what I've heard, probably what I've read, probably what people's opinions. But I suppose
from the impression that you got from all of the news sources, what's your impression?
Well, the impression I got that he at the beginning he tried, but I think probably sometimes people, when power is given to them, sometimes they can forget and don't use the power that is being handed to them in the way that they ought to use that power. I'm trying to say it in a diplomatic way, you know, to be fair, because he's passed, and in all due respect, you don't really say ill of the dead. But there was a time when, when I was listening to the programme today, there was one of, I think he was a correspondent, he may be a journalist, and he said that, I don't want to say actually he said, so from what I understood then, that probably had Mugabe died when he was in his 70s, he may have been held as one of the strong black leaders that the world has had, like Nelson Mandela and many others before them. But he died at his age where during the mid to latter part of his rule in Zimbabwe, and also what he stood for, his regime, it became a bit probably just out of character. Yeah.
All right, Mama, yeah? Can I ask Mama a question, yeah? All right, Mama, yeah? I like what you said still, because you gave a good, opinion and stuff like that. But this is what I want to ask you, yeah? Is that when he was waging a revolution, yeah, against Cecil Rhodes' government, yeah, and the British had an agreement with the indigenous people of Zimbabwe, and Robert Mugabe was there and other ZANU-PF revolutionaries, and they said that after a period, I've repeated this many times, but I think it's important that people get it, yeah, that after a period of time, the colonial rulership, yeah, will be handed, yeah, like the land will be handed back down to the people after a certain period of time. Now, the Tony Blair government, when the ZANU-PF veterans and Robert Mugabe said, all right, it's time for the land redistribution. They're even saying that some white farmers don't leave straight away, just start to ease some land off and stuff like that. Because you had Europeans with land in Zimbabwe the size of Belgium. So the Tony Blair government then said, we don't care about this agreement, basically. They said, even though we had an agreement back then, we don't care about your agreement. So Robert Mugabe then said, all right, we have no choice then but to go ahead and take the land. Because Robert Mugabe then said that we had an agreement that the land will be returned to its owners, and you are refusing to compensate the white farmers, yeah, farmers for their loss of land or whatever. So he was being fair, yeah. And they then started. This is when he started taking back the land, and yeah, taking back the land. Now he becomes a tyrant. He becomes. You understand? Yeah. Go on.
Yeah. From where, now you've explained it to me, I understand. This is where injustice has taken place, because by what you're saying, Mugabe did say, you know, give what the white farmers what is due to them, and then ease. So he was trying to do things in a way that would be fair. So at the end of the day, nobody will be too much as to words to the effect like burnt, basically. The pressure would be alleviated because the white farmers will get what is due to them, compensation, and then ease off. And then the ruling that was said that the indigenous people will get back their land. They will get back their land, and be able to farm and build up.
I just wanted to give you that perspective.
Yeah, that's good, yes, and that is right, yeah. So basically, what Mugabe has said was fair, but I suppose to a certain extent, we as human beings in the world can't live together, you know, and we need to learn to live together. There is enough for man's need in this world, but not man's greed. People get their wealth through hard work and are able to employ others and help others to get a livelihood. That's fine. That might be deemed as capitalism, but it's also helping others. And then you have people who believe that socially and there should be no sort of hierarchy. Everybody should be on an even level, the same. I mean, that can, onto the extreme of that, that's like communism. And to an extent, that can be feasible. However, there are certain things attached with communism, as there are certain things that are attached with extreme sectors as fascism. That's why we have to learn, as part of the human race, to live together. It doesn't matter, there is enough. There are five continents in this world, and each continent has something to bring to the world in terms of produce, in terms of economy, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of everything. We must learn to live together. Yeah, we must learn. Bless up.
Yeah, what's your name, brother?
My name is Sanai Kenfei from Long Beach, California. Just walking around here in Brixton, and just happened to see the books on being sold right here. So it just drew my interest. You know, I got to come out here and support my people whenever I get the opportunity to.
Yeah, obviously, well, we heard the news today that Robert Mugabe dropped out. You get me, sir?
I just found out about that. Yeah, that's unfortunate. You know, I think he's one with the ancestors now, so hopefully we can draw information from his fight, you know, against the racist Rhodesian regime into, you know, the independence of Zimbabwe and moving on into the future.
What do you feel about his role while in power from he got power to up to now?
I think, you know, when you look at the post-colonial, you know, methods of how to, it's complicated for sure. I think he was right in the land being returned from the white farmers back into the hands of the black farmers. I think that was appropriate. You cannot allow for foreign domination in your land. That's right. I think maybe the issue of it is when you exist as a young African nation, right? And you're dealing within a global market and a global economy, you know, there's a predisposition for you to fail because of, you know, the political will of what was formerly the enemy, right? So if Europeans rule in your country and then you kick the Europeans out, you know, it isn't surprising that the Europeans then put sanctions and financial obstacles in your success. I think someone like Mugabe, what the misstep would be maybe the speed and the race. Like I look at like how the Chinese have done it, right? The Chinese have spent 50 to now almost 75 years to become the global heavyweights and giants that they are, right? But they tried, when you look at how they originally tried to close themselves off from the global economy, from the Western capitalist economy. And Western capitalists didn't allow that to work successfully. So what you have in 1973, right? They re-enter into the global economy, but with set terms. And I think the set terms there predicated their success today in 2019, right? So with Mugabe, it was clear that the Rhodesians had to go, and they had to give the land back, right? The problem was because of colonialization, you had an entire generation of Zimbabweans who didn't know how to farm as mechanized agriculture. It's not that they didn't know how to farm. That's innate. We're Africans. It's where agriculture was invented. However, when you're dealing with, cotton farmers on a mass scale, that level of productivity to compete, that's where the issue is. And I think that...
Do you feel like you could have took a different method in terms of the transition from the white farmers to the inexperienced black farmers?
Yeah, and I don't even want to just put it on the inexperienced black farmers, because who do you think the white farmers had working on the farms? It wasn't that. What the issue was is like you had ZANU party members who have no agricultural background being given these major estates, so we cannot replace white capitalism with black capitalism.
Yo, can I ask you a question? Sure. Yeah, let me ask you a question, brother, as well, yeah? Is that they said it was recorded that you had Europeans in Zimbabwe that had land the size of Belgium in Africa. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? Now, we talked about the Lancaster House Agreement. Sure. It was suggested by Robert Mugabe that, as I said before, that the transition would be like everybody involved would synergize and help it be a peaceful. He said that the European farmers will get compensated by the British government, yeah, for loss of whatever. Sure. He said that European farmers that were willing to basically, and make that transition smooth. Sure. You understand? Sure. They will be allowed to stay. But then what happened is that they both said basically F you, basically. Right. That's what they said. Right. What agreement? It's like a gangster thing. They basically said what agreement? We don't care about no agreement, and we're going to keep our land, and you can't do nothing about it. Right. So this is where, what do you think about that?
Okay. So basically, dealing with the premise that the Commonwealth that many Caribbean and African and Asian countries still exist within is not predicated on global development. It's predicated on native markets being maintained at primitive levels in order to maximize development in the mother market, which would be London, England. That's archaic. That's feudalism. That's mercantilism. That's something that came about in existence in the 16th century. So what you're talking about, what you just said in the original Lancaster Agreement, it's similar to what exists now and still in countries like Kenya, where you have, or even in South Africa, where you have a foreign element that still dominates in the financial well-being of the country. And because of that, those are the safer places, quote unquote. Because of that, those are the places that foreign direct investment from IMF and other places are allowed to exist because they're playing the game according to the way. So I understand that the question would be, what was he to do in this with the opportunity?
It's the same thing with if we look at other examples, we used Cisse Mobutu and Patrice Lumumba. Patrice Lumumba was another revolutionary who wanted Africans in control of their own resources. Mobutu handed him over to the Belgians. When Idi Amin, what they said, he expelled the Asians, whatever. Remember, when he made this move, the economy, it destabilized the economy because a lot of those people were in wealthy positions with businesses, stuff like that, or whatever. So we find that in Africa now, there's a large dependency. Whether it's now dependency, they call in the Chinese the new white man. You understand? The Lebanese, all of these people are coming into Africa. You understand? The Arab League's in there. You understand? All these people. So anytime we get anybody, yeah, who stands up to imperialism in any sort of way, you know, they become vilified. You understand? In the Western media, they slate them. You know?
Of course, I think.
Yeah, I want to ask one about that as well. How he's being portrayed in the media currently. I know obviously you didn't know about it still, so you ain't seen how they've been talking about him in the media.
I seen something in the news earlier, but I thought he was just sick. I didn't know he had actually passed on.
But that's in general anyway. How he's been represented by the mainstream media.
Well, they represent him as a despot and as a, you know, as a dictator and as a.
Feel like there's any truth to those claims, or it's all just propaganda, negative propaganda? What do you feel like?
Well, I don't mean to make excuses, so anyone who sees it, don't make it as such. But it's hard to be a child of colonialism and not represent it when you also are in a position of power, even if it is after the fact of the state that you succeed from. He went to school in British schools. Where else would he have such a where else would he find such a fascination of the Pope? You know, that's not an African concept. That's a European concept. Where else would he have a predilection towards, you know, French clothes and flying to these places? These are things that you learn when you are told as an African that European validation means validation as a man. So I think there's certain things that we can be critical of, expense-wise. Like it hurts when you are in an African country and you see the leader of your country looking better than you. It's perceived as better, but I don't want to make that as an individual thing. That's something that's occurring in every country. I saw the queen here in this country. I saw her name on the Panama Papers, just like I saw in a variety of their hosts who weren't paying their taxes, who were hiding their money across the world. So I don't want to make that as a Mugabe thing. That's more of a world leader thing than anything else. And also, I don't want it to be seen as revolutionary thought or post-colonial fights and rebellions against the power structure that is imperialism is to be predicated on messiah figures. Like, the movement is a movement of people. It's not a movement of individuals. It's a movement of a collective conscious and a collective need for us to reclaim what is ours, not for one person. So I don't think it's fair to just say, oh, this person supposedly did bad, therefore this entire line of thinking is corrupt.
I just think, you know, as J. Edgar Hoover said, remember J. Edgar Hoover said, we must prevent the rise of a black messiah. So the vilification of our heroes, people who fought for us, you understand what I'm saying? Like, people who have laid their life on the line for us. Remember, this guy's gone through torture. You know, active torture. Yeah, this guy, they put him in prison and he had to break out of prison multiple times. Yeah, Robert Mugabe broke out of prison after 10 years and then went to the bush and started guerrilla war until they only called the agreement because they were losing. Every time the Europeans losing, they call it you understand? They did it in Jamaica. They did it, yeah. They did it in Jamaica with the Maroons. You understand? They did it in Jamaica with the Maroons, same thing. But we have to look at these things like character assassination. As I said before, people even like Idi Amin, yeah? Rastafari movement, within the Rastafari movement, there's the Bobo Ashanti, and they call Idi Amin Dada. Like, all of the people that they say are negative, those are our heroes. You understand what I'm saying? These people are highly intelligent. Mugabe was a highly, highly intelligent man. You understand? Look at that film where they tried to make about Idi Amin, the last king of Scotland, which shows you about the European mind. That you could go to another African country, sleep, and sleep with the head of state's wife, with graphic sexual scenes, which never happened in reality, but this is the type of character assassination. Remember the Zulu movie and all of these type of things? They always have to be the hero. They always have to be seen as the good, yeah? No. The Honourable Elijah Muhammad teaches you different, that they're not for the good. Marcus Messiah Garvey, the most honourable, teaches you that these people aren't good. Don't trust them. And don't trust the Western media. Don't allow them, listen, 1 second, don't allow them to dictate who your hero should be. Yeah, simple.
Just wanted to just say, yeah, that I deal with people on an individual basis. So there's a lot of European people, they're not guilty for the actions of what they're doing. You see what I'm saying? So it's like us just throwing everyone in one pot. Yeah, us just throwing everyone in one pot. It's not really a good thing, I don't think. You see what I'm saying? It's like like we were speaking about earlier, I deal with everyone on an individual basis. If you're a good black man, then I can have a relationship with you. If you're a good white man, I can have a good relationship with you. But then you got bad black people and bad white people. You see what I'm saying? And they're acting on behalf of the rest of white people. But there's white people that might not be down with it at all, like, and they're being misrepresented, and we look and say, well, yeah, this white man's racist, white man's racist. But brother, he could just be a normal guy or a normal woman that's just innocent of all the world's politics.
But listen, all I was saying, I was saying this, yeah, in relation to how the question, which was the media's representation of Robert Mugabe, as the brother so eloquently said, you know, that these things are by design. We can't allow them to dictate who our heroes should be. Do you understand? We can't let them dictate who our heroes should be. So I'm not talking about all this black and white thing. You ask me what I feel about Robert Mugabe. Robert Mugabe's a hero. And we're going to add the Honourable Robert Mugabe. So rest in eternal peace.
All right then. Cool, brother. Respect.